So I was browsing around AliExpress and I came across the classic LED mod, and it was available for the iPhone 7. And I just so happen to have an old iPhone 7. And it's not in the greatest shape. It's bent pretty badly and it's got some audio IC issues, but it still works decent enough. And I thought it would be fun to spruce things up, add a little bit of fun. So we're going to add this nice LED logo to the back of the iPhone 7. As always with the iPhone, we're going to start with the pentalobe screws at the bottom. We've got two of those down there. Make sure the iPhone is off. Unscrew those two down there. Then we're going to use our metal pry tool to work our way around the edges. Pop the screen up. This screen has been opened before, and the adhesive should not be present or should be pretty weak. Despite the phone being bent slightly more than it should be, it seems to hold together pretty well. So we're just going to open this up, slide around the edges, pop them out of the brackets, hold them in place. Screen is now free, and we can work it open from the top. Once we've got that open with some slight crunching noises, take out the pentalobe. We're going to switch over to the tri-wing screwdriver. Unscrew the L-shaped metal bracket that's going to hold down all the flex connections. And just because I did hear some minor cracking sounds, I'm going to make sure that the LCD is still intact. The screen is bent rather badly, and we're all good on there. Let's continue. As the phone boots up, we'll power it off again. Up here at the very top, we're going to switch our game over to the Phillips head. Just remove that, place that up top. Should be fully booted on now. So let's go ahead and power this thing off. It's the brackets from the screen that are crunching a little bit in there. That's all right. Let's take off the bottom bracket. It usually pops the battery connector with it. Battery connector, for some reason, likes to get hooked on there. That's okay. We need to unsnap that anyway. We're going to remove our digitizer and LCD, the home button extension ribbon, and the proximity connector. We'll set this to the side. What we're going to do with this flex connection, which is a rather interesting design, this one, basically it's got the small battery connector, and it's going to be sandwiched between the battery and the board. This connector piece right here. It's also got a little gold contact that's going to be down here at the bottom. That's going to go into the speaker, at least one of those pins on the bottom side of the speaker, the pressure connectors. And that's going to allow the LED to respond to sound and light up or flash or whatever this one is supposed to do. And the instructions are quite incredible. I should really go through the instructions in my video on this. So obviously we started down here with remove the two screws at the bottom of the phone. We did not use a sucker to open the gap from the screen and then insert a fin to the gap to open the screen carefully. I guess my metal pry tool would count as a fin. We did go ahead to step 3, where we remove all the screws marked by red circles in the figure, and then take the steel sheet down. Now, you can't really see because of the lighting, but I honestly can't see either because the little red squares are just nothing. Then I guess we did unwind the ribbon cable marked by the red boxes in turn, remove all the screws listed in the red cable, and then take the vibrator down. Well, that doesn't add up. The vibrator's down here. We're not going to take that down. We can. It's going to help with battery removal, but all right, we're going to keep going on. Use a tweezer. Yes, that is STWEEZER. Use a tweezer to roll the battery out. Then remove all the screws listed in the red cable to take the speaker assembly down. I'm going to continue on and set that to the side. We'll revert back to that when we have questions. I do believe I'm going to follow a little bit of their advice, and we're going to remove the speaker, or first we're going to remove the vibrate motor, then we'll move on to the speaker. For this particular modification, we're obviously going to have to remove the battery and replace that little logo underneath with this nice transparent logo. Got the vibrate motor loose. It is still connected to a flex connector down there, so we've got to remove the 2 screws that hold in this plastic bracket, which also sandwiches one of the microphones at the bottom to the actual frame of the phone. Interestingly enough, the bottom of the iPhone 7 has pretty symmetrical speaker grills, but this side only has one spot that does anything, and that is a microphone. These are not stereo speakers. The iPhone does use stereo by using the speaker down below as well as the top ear speaker, which is a little bit larger in this version. So we're going to unclip the vibrate motor right there, and this little guy should come right out. Set the Taptic engine aside. Now we're going to remove the battery. Battery's got 2 magic pull tabs at the bottom. These magic pull tabs are relatively old and are probably going to tear during the removal process. That's okay, that's why we have the tweezers, so that we can go fishing. Take this. Some people roll these around on their tweezers and pull them out. I find that to be very slow and inefficient, and so I tend to go with the old tried and true method, just being careful. Get the satisfying squeal of battery pull tabs. You won't be able to reuse that adhesive. It is a ball of useless nothing now. Let's go for the second one, and hopefully we are going to be 2 for 2 on the magic pull tab game. Don't feel it locking out yet. We are in business. Toss the adhesive out. Got our battery free. Set our battery to the side. Now we've got to do something about this Apple logo at the bottom. I think the metal pry tool is going to come back into handy here. We are going to try and pry around and underneath it. It is somewhat sealed down with a small bead of glue that goes all the way around it. You can use some solvents or some alcohol to help loosen this up. Because I have access to other Apple logos, I'm not really going to be gentle with this one, and we're just going to peel it out like so. Now we've got a clear shot all the way through the phone to the bottom, which looks pretty neat in itself. And I've been on the hunt for a clear housing and chassis for this phone. That'd be kind of fun to have something transparent. So let's go ahead and put in the small Apple logo here. The logo is kind of interesting. It's actually a somewhat thick, clear piece. And what it does basically on the back side of this circuit PCB is it's going to link right up to here to these 2 LEDs. These are 90-degree LEDs. They are firing that direction right now. And this is very similar to how the PlayStation 4 has that nice glowing effect of the bar that runs across the center of the PS4 console. And that's what it uses actually, are a set of these 90-degree, these right angle firing LEDs. And they illuminate the whole bar in this beautiful gradient. So that's what's going to happen here, more or less. So we're going to go ahead and pop the Apple logo right in its spot, I guess. We'll remove the adhesive cover. This part's going to be a little sticky, and that's going to hold our Apple logo right where it needs to be. Flip this over to make sure that we line it up correctly. Make sure that we get everything pushed into the frame, including the little leaf up at the top. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to check, see how this is going to line up. I think this is going to work pretty well. I'm wondering if it would be easier to sandwich this part with the battery first, then go into the connector. We'll see once we get there. We've still got to take out the loudspeaker down here at the bottom so that we can access that one gold pin. It's going to control the sound effect, basically, on that little LED. So let's go ahead and remove these 2 Phillips head screws that hold the top of it in. But it's not quite free yet. We've still got a Phillips head down here, the very bottom right corner. And then we should have another screw that's hidden somewhere underneath this one. So we're going to take out this fourth Phillips head on the lower left side of the speaker assembly. That screw is quite stuck in there. At least on mine it was. Get this out of the way. And I believe our speaker is actually free now. Let's give it a try. Yep. Got our speaker up. It doesn't have to come all the way out. We just need it raised up enough so that we can touch the gold contacts there at the very bottom. This one here and this one here. We'll be lining up with this one just as the gold contacts are on the actual charge port flex cable that runs up here to the motherboard. This one's going to wrap all the audio signal and controls down to these two pins, which will fire into the speaker. And so this should work well, this little board we've got. I'm going to go ahead and peel off some of the tape here. And we're going to peel, I don't believe there's any adhesive. I'm trying to feel if there is an adhesive layer here. I don't believe so. I believe this is just as it is. So this one's just kind of float and hopefully line up correctly. Yeah, I think we could do with a little bit of adhesive, but this should help hold it in spot. So we're going to slide this up. What we've got here actually is shows as almost perforated, but it's dotted. And this is so that we can fold the part of the board up. And this part of the board is going to rest right up against the side of the logic board, which is going to be a little tight with that battery going in there. I'm going to push this up as high as it can go so that it's touching the bottom of that Apple logo. And then we're going to use the back side of the tweezers to kind of push this into place with the adhesive. Then we're going to lift up the speaker a little bit so that we can slide this gold contact underneath. Make sure that's in there. Line the speaker back up. And I'm going to start replacing the screws in the speaker before I forget where they actually go. For some reason, I like to get hung up on charge ports. It's the only time I tend to mix up screws here and there. But for the most part, I've got it down to almost muscle memory. So we're going to just replace the Phillips heads that we took out, all four of those bad boys. Push that back over the actual port itself. Screw that in. See, this isn't laying down quite as flush and pretty as I'd like, but I want room for that battery connector to actually go down and connect, which I think we're ready to start reassembling some more of. So let's plug in our vibrate motor at the bottom. Replace the 3 Phillips head screws that hold it in. Sometimes a phone will come into the shop that is a little bit aggressive with its vibrate motor. When you press the home button or anything that involves vibration on there, it rattles. It's kind of violent, shakes. And this is actually a common issue that occurs because the screws that they use to hold the vibrate motor in do not have Loctite on them. Loctite is meant to hold the screws in through vibration and movement and just general use. Now, of all the screws on this board that have Loctite, to not have Loctite on the one moving part inside is a little bit crazy to me. But Apple is a little bit crazy to me most times. So we'll just let that slide for this one. I'm going to replace the little plastic bracket that holds in that microphone at the bottom, as well as securing the Taptic engine flex connector to the charge port. Got that fitted down at the bottom. I believe that we are ready to place the battery back in. Now I'm just going to give this a quick test run to make sure that everything is plugged in, can be plugged in. And yeah, actually, you know what? We're gonna go for it. We're just gonna go straight in for this one. Because I want it to be slightly easier to remove the next time I'm in here, I'm going to be using some red double-sided tape to hold the battery connector in. Also because I'm at home and I don't have any of the magic pull tabs handy or available to me at the moment. I'm going to be using a small amount of red tape. This iPhone gets very little use. I use it actually as the screen for my drone on the remote controller, and that is about its only function currently. So we've got that pulled out. We're going to set the screen in. I don't know if the bend in the frame is causing any issues. I don't want the iPhone to attempt to power on without having anything connected. I don't feel like dealing with a disabled iPhone at all. Connect those two up. Before I press this down, I'm going to make sure that the battery connector can go all the way in. Ooh, it's already lighting up below. That is pretty neat, but that is going to kill some battery. Let's continue anyway. We'll set that down. Everything is secure. We're going to place the L-shaped shield right there. We're going to swap out our Phillips head driver back to the tri-wing driver. It is very important that you get your screws correct here. A long screw going into the board is not easily forgiven, especially by the board itself. The board does not take kindly to having a screw run through it, and that's when you get sent to data recovery. Moving on to put the third out of the 4 tri-wings back into this L-shaped shield. Apple decided to put in tri-wings to try and stifle repair, but tri-wing screwdrivers are easily and readily available from many, many vendors. You can even get them on Amazon nowadays. I got my toolkit at a local Harbor Freight for about $15. It is not bad, and it has served me well for a good 2.5 years now, I'd say. Up at the top, we're going to switch over back to the Phillips head. You can see the slight glow coming through the bottom. I don't know why it is glowing currently as the phone is off. That is absolutely going to kill the battery, but like I said, this one is only ever used when connected to a controller, which is partially charging it anyway, so I'm sure it's going to be just fine. Alrighty, got that all set. Snap our screen back into place. Remember, the frame of this phone is bent. Because of this bend, it is slightly harder to get it back together, and also a little riskier when I press it down, because that is glass, and glass is glass. You know what that means. We'll switch back finally to our pentalobe screwdriver. Pentalobe, screw in those 2 bottom screws that we took out initially that hold the screen and the entire phone together, more or less. Now, with it all said and done, we should have a beautiful light up logo. Let's power the phone on. Oh yeah, that is pretty neat. That is pretty neat. Let's turn off the light here for a second. Look at that. It glows. Does it respond to touch? Some of these respond to touch. They do. You can tap it to turn it on and off. You can adjust the brightness. You can adjust the color. This thing is crazy neat. Look at that. We got green apple. I think now we're just cycling through RGB. That's pretty neat. But how does it respond to audio? Let's put in our passcode here. Then we're going to go into the settings. And I had mentioned earlier this one was having some audio IC failure. Thankfully, it's related to the microphone. Unfortunately, that means that Siri has no functionality in the slightest. So we're going to go to Sounds and Haptics, and we will go to a ringtone, put on the default opening. Got nothing exciting happening on the logo, but I might have to turn it on. Yeah, it flashes all kinds of different colors. Check it out. That is pretty neat. That is pretty neat. So that is the iPhone 7 LED mod for the Apple logo. Not too bad. It will void your warranty and just secure that battery back down after you safely get it out with those magic pull tabs that almost never break, right? Thanks for joining me. See you next time.